I've been wanting to get into FPV for some time. I've watched a lot of videos on different users, different pilots that have flown FPV, and it always excited me because just the skill that I can see that it requires. I mean, they're doing these acrobatic moves, flying in tight spaces, or going very fast at very low altitude to the ground, and you can just sense the exhilaration that these FPV drones were able to produce in those views. And I've always been enticed by that because I was always wondering, as a filmmaker, how can I incorporate those type of views into my movies? Because at the heart of who I am, I'm a filmmaker, right? So how can I use this tool, FPV, in order to make my movies a little bit more attractive, make the movies that I make have a different viewpoint, you know, and just to getting that skill to be able to fly that was always very intriguing to me. And also at the end of this video, I'll be talking about how a lucky subscriber will have an opportunity to win the DJI Motion Controller that is used to control the DJI FPV. I'm pretty familiar with drones. I've been flying for like the last 5 to 6 years. Started with the Phantoms and moved on to the Mavics and the Minis, etc. So I'm very familiar with using a DJI drone. However, flying FPV, I thought that possibly some of those skills, or at least a decent amount of the skill that was used in flying Mavics, would be able to transfer to flying something like this FPV. Turns out very little actually transfers, because the skill that's required to fly FPV is way more intense, right? Because a lot of the things that if you've flown like a Mavic or a Phantom or any other DJI drone besides the FPV, you don't realize it, but it assists you quite a bit, right? And just one of the hardest things to even do with FPV is just being able to stay still and hover in place, you know, because you're constantly moving your sticks. The system they provide you with, the goggles, right? The actual aircraft, the controller, this is the normal controller they give you, and then of course you even have the motion controller, which I'll talk about in a second. It all aids you and it helps you to build up your skill set so that you can fly confidently. Now, you might not become the next, you know, greatest FPV pilot, but you will be able to get around without fear of crashing, right? Be able to navigate areas. And the more you practice, the better you get, just like anything else. DJI offers the simulator, and there's a lot of other simulators out there. The DRL, and then Rotor Riot even has one too, which I use quite often. So just stick with those. You keep flying that and keep doing that. Eventually, over time, your mind, your fingers start to do what you're in your head you want to do. But it does take some time, and you really have to practice. I'd say somewhere between 10 to 15 hours is a good place. Some people say more than that. Honestly, I don't think it's necessary, because the simulator, while a good place to start, it does not fully replicate reality, right? And there's nothing like flying the drone for real. So once you get a good feeling of flying in the simulator, I strongly recommend just go out to a park, just find an empty area, and just try to fly every day or every other day if you have time that permits. You have a toggle switch right here. So it lets you go from all those modes, the normal mode being the typical mode that most DJI drone pilots are used to. And then you go to the next one, which is sport mode, which is very similar, except it goes faster and then it banks when it turns. It doesn't roll, it doesn't flip, it can't dive per se, but you do get that acceleration of speed and that movement of like banking like a fighter jet. And then finally, which is the full-on manual, which you get no holds barred, full speed, and you have full control of the drone. However, the thing is that you don't have to go to manual mode if you don't want to. You can stay on the sport mode or just go in the regular normal mode. It really depends upon you as what you want to bring to it or what you want to learn from it. For myself, my goal was to get to manual mode as fast as possible So these are the V2 goggles that DJI has paired up with the FPV if you buy the combo package. And you get a crystal clear transmission. It is unlike anything that you've seen out there. This surpasses analog. You don't get any fuzziness. With this system here, the transmission system, the OcuSync 3.0, it can go up to like 4 or 5 miles easily, right? Of course, using line of sight. I don't fly that far, nor do I need to, but that number means to me is signal strength, just in case if I go behind something, I'm not gonna lose control of the drone, or I'm not gonna, suddenly my screen gonna go blank, or that type of thing like that. You will still be able to see it because the signal strength is that good. I wanted to fly, but I don't wanna learn all the like soldering and what systems to get and what is compatible and X, Y, and Z. It can get quite daunting, right? To know all the components, and then you gotta put it together. With DJI, they made a system that works right out of the box. You don't need to buy any more parts, you don't have to solder, you don't have to add anything, you don't have to bind anything, right? Which is another step that doesn't need to happen. And lastly, the DJI FPV is clearly, if you look at the way it's designed and everything like that, it can do freestyle and you can do certain things, but really at the heart of it is cinematic FPV, right? Those of you might not know the difference of that. Freestyle is typically flying tightly and doing all these turns and flips and everything like that, going in small spaces, whether you're in a warehouse and things like that. And that can be fun. Obviously, it's more risky, right? Because you're going faster speeds and you're going in tight spaces. Cinematic FPV can be landscapes down a mountaintop or a waterfall or river, and just flying and going along, and it's a much different experience from that as opposed to flying freestyle. The DJI FPV is, while it can do freestyle, it's more for the person that is looking for that cinematic FPV experience. The brake button is a godsend, okay? This button, you press this, boom, it stops immediately where it's at, and it just stays there. Now, if you're going 90 plus miles an hour, it's going to require some time to stop. However, it will stop, and it does stop fast, but you gotta keep in mind how fast you're going to. It does take some time, right? But it does react quite quickly. And this button has saved my rear plenty of times, you know, whether it be a bush or a tree or a wall or the ground or whatever, right? I have crashed. It's just part of the nature of flying FPV, but I've crashed less often thanks to this button. All drones, FPV, have fixed cameras, right? Whether it be a GoPro or something like that. And you can't, in order to change the tilt angle, you have to land, you readjust it, and then you bring it back in the air. With the DJI FPV, you don't have to do that. It has a single axis gimbal. It goes up and goes down. And it's not for stabilization purposes. It's for controlling the tilt of the camera, which controls the speed of the drone. And for those of you that are familiar with most DJI controllers, you have your tilt wheel on the left side right here, which allows you to do that. That's something that DJI has that no other drone has. There are other manufacturers or another drone manufacturers out there that have made controllers that use motion, right? So this is not a new concept per se, but I would say this is the first product that I've seen that works and works well. The other ones are just either bulky or it looks worse and obtrusive. It doesn't make sense why a person would use it. The interface is just clumsy, I would say, from any other offering that I've seen. This is the first time where I've seen just this little thing right here. The battery's internally, you just put it on. It has a trigger, which is allows you to move forward, the tilt, the lock, button to take off, etc. And it's all there. And it simply relies on the motion of your arm whether you go up or down or left and right. And it does it well, actually, which I was shocked because I was not thinking this would be that well implemented. My hope is that DJI uses this and implements this on other drones, and maybe in the future refine it more so that possibly can get over some of those other limitations that currently exist for it right now. However, like anything else, it does have its criticisms as well. One of them, which is one that you'll see in a lot of forums, and it's a valid one, is its repairability, or its, I guess you can say, crashability. The thing about flying FPV is that crashing is inherent as part of the flying experience because of the nature of the way you're flying, is that you fly so low, so fast, you're doing all these acrobatic moves. It's inevitable that you will crash, hit a branch, or flip, or something like that. And depending on the severity of that crash, you will need to repair it. Now, there are a lot of components that it can be easily repaired by, like the arms can be repaired. I've repaired on my own, just got the replacement part for this landing strut right here. So those are easy things. However, there are some other stuff that's internally, like changing out like all these components in the front end right here, or changing out the camera. Some of those can be a little bit more challenging, and that's where DJI Refresh comes in. Some people may look at it as a negative, but it's a pro and a con at the same time. I've crashed this a handful of times, and only one time of those crashes where I actually needed to set it in, and I smashed it up pretty good. You do experience some what they call prop wash, right? And prop wash is basically when you are flying a specific direction and you do an abrupt change of direction, right? Whether you're going from a dive immediately and you're trying to pull up, or you're going bank, you're basically flying, you're going down and then you're flying through what the current or the air that it already kind of generated, right? And so the result of that is, especially when you get in a dive, which is where I experience it the most, is when I'm coming from dive and I immediately pull up, or doing a what they call a full roll that comes out like that. You'll experience that prop wash, which is basically when you're flying it through your goggles. You'll notice you'll see a shudder, right? You'll see a vibration or shake. As I said before, I believe the Motion Controller is an amazing device. It's a great peripheral that DJI created to use with the FPV. However, it does have limitations that if you're wanting to fly FPV more and really advance your skill, using this will, I would say, not help your skill set grow. You'll just, you can fly, go straight and do stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? If you simply just want to have cruising around, honestly, there's no better controller to use than this. However, if you want to do other things and you're trying to become a better FPV pilot, I would say that this probably isn't for you. I've owned the DJI FPV system for about 6 to 7 months now, and I've had a good time using it. However, there are a couple of things that I recommend to enhance the usability of the FPV, the goggles, and the controller. The first thing I would suggest is getting a holder, a battery holder, for the battery that goes to the goggles. DJI doesn't provide this for you, which is this piece right here, this plastic piece that I bought on Amazon. DJI just has the wire, and then it goes down to your side, into your pocket. And honestly, you don't want to have this control, the headset here and the battery coming down, which can get tangled on something or caught on something, right? It's not ideal. So there's a variety of places you can do it. I'll put a description or the link of this one if you want to get this. And I simply just put it on like this. right? And I can have it resting on my head like that. There's no wire coming down my jacket, my pocket, my pants, or anything like that to get caught on, which I love. And when I want to use it, I just simply pull it down, adjust it a little bit, and then I'm good to go, right? You can see here, it's nice. So I upgraded to these through, I think it was Lumenier duality antennas. I'll put the link in the description below this video for those of you who are interested in it. First of all, it provides a slight increase on the range and the signal penetration, right? And I can't verify it because I used it. And I say it does help. It's not dramatic, but it does help in these cases. So when DJI provides you these antennas about right here, right? You can see the difference, right? They stick out a bit. You got this little antenna that's coming here, and you got the stubby. And so I was always concerned when I was placing this in a backpack, whereas, you know, if you hit it the wrong way, it could kind of snap it off, right? And I have heard people where they kind of snapped it. It's not as durable, right? Because it is plastic, you know? The last thing I recommend is to not use or buy DJI's official props that come for the DJI FPV. Now, there's nothing wrong with them. They work, right? And they're nice. The problem is that they are expensive relatively for props. One set of props costs about $15, $14.99, right? Plus tax. So I looked around and I was able to find this set of propellers by Dronetech. And I'll put the link in the description below, so if you're interested in it. And they are identical in the shape, form, and factor to the DJI official props, right? The difference that the Dronetech has over the DJI ones is that they are half the price. Now, there are other users out there who have mentioned using prop adapters. Meaning, traditionally with FPV, you actually you put on your prop and you screw it on with a bolt and it stays locked in. And I've seen users that have that and it eliminates the prop wash almost entirely. That's cool, but the problem with that is that you lose the quick release mechanism that DJI implements on all their drones, where the prop just goes in, you push in, you twist, and it locks in. And so when you want to simply just store it, or you're finished flying, you just pop them off and you put them in, you put in your backpack. So like any other giveaway that I've done in the past with the Ronin or the Mavic Mini or the Mini 2 or whatever item that I've done in the past, it's the same thing as always. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you have, thanks, I appreciate any support. It's very helpful. But if you haven't subscribed to the channel, leave a like for this video, and then below in the comment section, leave a comment, right? And in I'd say about 2 weeks or so, I'll put the date. You'll see the date somewhere on this screen right here, or in the descriptions below, about when the date will happen. It will be a random drawing, and then this will be sent to that lucky subscriber. So in conclusion, I think that DJI has created another great product that for the consumer to use. They have a knack of creating products that they put their DJI spin on it, and it brings new innovation to that platform, right? They did it with drones, they do it with gimbals and stuff like that, and they're always coming something that pushes the industry forward, right? Now, is this the best FPV on the market, right? I don't know, right? There are features that are definitely cutting edge, and there are some things where, like, you know, the FPV crowd is like, I don't know about that. What I can say about, there are a lot of features here that I believe should carry, and then other manufacturers should take note of, because they are welcome features, like the braking feature. That is amazing, right? You know, being able to tilt, basically having a gimbal on here, that's something that no other manufacturer or drone has done for the FPV market. So who knows, maybe they'll catch on and say, okay, DJI was onto something with that. In all case, I think this is a great platform. I'll continue to use it. I have no issues with it. I love it. But it's only made me want to go more into FPV. Probably I want my next FPV drone, I want to get a Cinewhoop, right? Something small, tiny. And if DJI is watching this video, make a Cinewhoop, right? Make a tiny one that can go through little tiny crevices. And I just, I don't know if you guys are watching these videos where people are going through like bowling alleys and stuff, and they're using a Cinewhoop for those type of things. And I just know that if DJI wanted to, they could, right? Imagine just having, since if you already bought this one, right, the FPV, and you already have the goggles and the controller, all you need to buy that drone, you can just pair it to it, connect it, and you have this ecosystem of FPV drones that's through the DJI system, which would be really cool. So I'm hoping they do that. In all case, I'm very satisfied with the drone. It does have its drawbacks, but the pros, in my opinion, outweigh the cons. So in all case, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please remember that we're still the giveaway for the motion controller. For those of you that are interested in it, just follow the rules like I said before. And within 2 weeks, the winner will be announced. Hopefully this comes to somebody that will enjoy it and use it well. I did for the time that I had it. But it's time to go to somebody else that will find more use of it than I did. So in all case, this is Jimmy from 1015 Studios. Thanks for watching, and always take care, and God bless you.